The Wall Street Journal has decided to publish an op-ed penned by Vice President Mike Pence, which completely denies that there is a second wave of coronavirus. In fact, he attempts to completely rewrite recent history by lying about Trump's disastrous handling of coronavirus. I am not going to regurgitate or repeat his lies, but I will debunk some of the nonsense that he shared in that op-ed, which is going to lead to people losing their lives. Let's not sugarcoat it in any way. He writes, the media has taken to sounding the alarm bells over a second wave of coronavirus infections. Such panic is overblown. Thanks to the leadership of President Trump and the courage and compassion of the American people, our public health system is far stronger than it was 4 months ago, and we are winning the fight against the invisible enemy. Now, 21 states are seeing an uptick in the number of new coronavirus cases. Many of those states are red states. California is included in that list, even though California is not a red state. But this goes to show you that this is a severe virus that is easily spread through human contact. It's airborne. The only state that seems to have gotten it 100% right is Vermont, where their numbers have gone down drastically. So Vermont has seen a decrease of at least 50% of new coronavirus cases. Mm-hmm. But anyway, going back to the lies told by Mike Pence, Eliza Relman over at Business Insider did a good job debunking point by point all of the nonsense in this Wall Street Journal op. She writes, Pence celebrated that the daily average infection rate has dropped to about 20,000 new cases per day. Okay, let's just stop for a second, John. Mm-hmm. Who would celebrate 20,000 new people contracting this virus per day? Okay, fine. So that's what's happening in the Trump administration. They're celebrating this. Mm-hmm. It's down from a high of about 30,000 in April. And he pointed out that daily COVID-19 deaths in the U.S. have declined to 750 over the last 5 days. The highest daily death count came on May 1st when 2,909 people in the United States died of coronavirus in 24 hours. Now, here's what's important to keep in mind. As Relman writes, the vice president failed to mention that coronavirus cases are on the rise in over 20 states, 21 to be exact, many of the same places that were quick to loosen social distancing orders and reopen businesses. And overall, new COVID-19 cases in the U.S. have begun to plateau, not decline. Intensive care units in Arizona, for instance, are now overwhelmed after the state's governor was slow to shut down and, of course, quick to reopen. John, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, Arizona's certainly one of the rough ones. I was just, I follow a Twitter account that compiles daily information, and Texas, once again, broke records. Not in cases, although, yes, that too, hospitalizations. And so, and the reason I always stress hospitalizations is because the right-wingers are always going to come back and say, well, we're testing more. And like Trump says, it's a double-edged sword. More tests, you're going to have more cases. Okay, maybe. But tests don't magically require people to have extended stays in hospitals. And that's what we're seeing. Hospitalizations are going down in some states. They've fallen drastically in New York and Illinois, New Jersey, a number of other states outside of the South, the Southwest. But Texas is going up. Arizona's going up. Other states like North Carolina, South Carolina are going up as well, although not as fast. That should change policy. That should scare people into pushing for something, because what it seems like we're seeing, and this is to some extent what we had predicted, was the entire country was slow to shut down, perhaps understandably so, I guess. I don't know. And there was no leadership, certainly. The places that were initially hit are the places you would expect. They're coastal blue states that people travel to, largely. And so the entire country shut down. Much of the country hadn't really been hit by it that much at that point. Those parts of the country were the quickest to reopen. And now, what do you know? It's starting to spread. And those areas are probably not going to shut down. Texas is probably not going to initiate a statewide lockdown. And so those 2,800 people that are hospitalized today as a resulting coronavirus, in 2 weeks, how many of them will have died? And how many more people will be sick by then?
Right. I mean, I think it's also important to note, a lot of health experts are saying, there's a little bit of, there's a few days, a week between when a person contracts the virus and when they end up in the hospital. And there are predictions by these health experts that the number of people checking into the hospital because they have this virus is likely to increase. Now, it's different state by state, but one thing that I do want to point out is that there's this narrative arguing that the reason why we're seeing an uptick is because we've actually improved with testing. And that is not something that explains the uptick in coronavirus cases. I'll explain why in just a minute. But first, I want you to hear from Mike Pence, who had a call with governors telling them all sorts of misleading information and encouraging them to implement the misinformation and the bad advice that's coming from the Trump administration. Take a listen.
I would just encourage you all, as we talk about these things, make sure and continue to explain to your citizens the magnitude of increase in testing. In most of the cases where we are seeing some marginal rising number, that's more a result of the extraordinary work you're doing expanding testing.
So unfortunately, that's not true. I really wish it were true, but it's not. So let's take Oklahoma, for example. The Oklahoman wrote about this, and here's what the journalist Randy Ellis had to say. The spike in confirmed COVID-19 cases can't be attributed to more testing. The state actually performed more tests the week of May 17th, but the number of tests that came back positive in the week that followed was only 1.8%. Last week, it was 4.6% of the tests coming back positive. Mm-hmm. So it's not, my point is, and the point of health experts is, no, this is not because we've increased testing. We're seeing either less testing or a stable amount of testing week to week, right? No difference in the amount of testing. And we're still seeing more people test positive in these 21 states. It's just devastating. And the fact that governors are encouraged to spread this kind of misinformation by our vice president is truly pathetic, because people are going to lose their lives. It's just unacceptable.
Yeah, and aside from just the obvious human cost of if it's allowed in all of these states to continue to spread, and to some extent they seem to be very willing to hide this information. So like one of the reasons I'm focusing on some states' hospitalization numbers is because some states don't even report it. Like Florida has had a huge upsurge in cases. Oddly, 2 to 3 weeks after their full reopening, the cases have gone 3 times higher than they were during the first wave. But Florida doesn't report hospitalization, so I have no idea. I can't say. Weird that they're being so, keeping their cards so close to the chest, or they're close to the vest on that. But anyway, what I don't understand, aside from the human cost, is as an electoral strategy, every week we get a week closer to the election, and they seem to, like, this is a strategy that's, the end goal seems to be, we want these numbers to be as high as they were initially as we launch into the general election. I just don't get it. Pragmatically, why wouldn't you want to protect people when your jobs are on the line?
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.